This is skating. That's V. Oops, I just fell. That's my oldest sister when she was in high school. And we're skating. I have to assume that this is the pond on the farm, but we're going to have to wait and see if we have another shot. They put that pond in, they dug it down for water for crops at the time, but they never really used it for that because it was spring fed. There was a spring that came down the road. This is across the driveway from the farmhouse. What you see in the back is just a shed. But that was by their orchard that they had. This is the new house. The old house was a frame one and it burned down. This is my brother Charlie. And he is with our cousins that look to me like John Hollick, my mom's brother. And that looks like Barbara. Don't ask me what the little boy's name is, I don't remember. That's my brother again, but in the beginning. We did that a lot. That's the taller kid there, that's my uncle. My cousin, Bob Badaba. And this is on the farm. And this is where Charlie lived while he was going to grammar school, when he was in grammar school. So up until high school, he lived on the farm. Yeah, that's the John Hollick. It's Barbara and boy, I don't remember his name. That's Bob Badaba in the back. That was myself. Well, you know that. Looks like we were being washed by the parents. That was either Rosalie or V. We had a hill that was behind the house, between the house and the barn, and that went down to where that pond was. That was our favorite spot for sledding. Of course, if she went, that's V. Yeah. Notice they're wearing dresses. That went all the way into a little swampy area that was behind. That's Geraldine. What about? I don't know. Oh, let's see. Oh, that's Elsie Zangi and her husband Paul. He was a painter in Algonquin, lived in Algonquin. And they're moving too fast to identify them all. Oh my gosh. That's who I think it is. Yeah, that's my mom. She's pulling her sister, Elsie. Yep, that's my mom. That's my dad and Paul. My dad is in front. Trying to dump him over. The two Zangi girls, Marjorie and Natalie. It's Paul pulling my dad. That hill that he's pulling over, they're actually on that little pond. It's all frozen over. That hill was in the center. When they dug that area up, they found the bones of a horse that somebody had buried there. That's corn stalks they're using for fodder. There's my dad with his pipe. That's the shotgun. That's me and Charlie. And if it's what I think it is. No, I knew he shot one, but we stripped his skin. It was a skunk. But what he's doing here, I don't know if you want to know this or not. They're chopping up the corn stalks because corn stalks don't really deteriorate. And he didn't have a silo, so it wasn't silage. I do not know what they used it for. If they just chopped it up and were using it for fuel, because they had to heat the house somehow. That's Paul Zangi. That's coming out of the kitchen in the house, and that's. We come closer. So many of these look the same. Oh, that was my mom. That's my dad. And here they go, all the women. Geraldine and Natalie. Vive, she's in the blue dress. And here comes Paul with the bike. And that's Elsie, his wife, in the gray. Next one, that's Geraldine, and then Rose, Vive. And don't ask me what they were doing, because you notice none of the guys were there when they were doing it. That's the hill that we would go down and get the sled in the winter. The barn is over on the left. The house was on the right. That's Elsie Zangi. That, say that white one with the, there's my grandfather in the black. And grandma is in that fur coat. Yeah, and that's my mom. That's your grandmother on that. And that woman in the back, the bunch, that's John Hullock's wife, Juanita. She was Irish, so it was a mixed marriage. That's Grandma Apolenka. And that's John Hullock and Apolenka Zemla, or Hullock, Ni Zemla. And he farmed that until he was over 70 years old and was still farming it, before they sold it out and everything. That's me, and that's probably Charlie, and that's Mom on the bike, trying to get her to ride the bike. That was the driveway coming in off the main highway. Took three of us to hold her up, my goodness. And that's a baby. Here it is. Oh, I think this is that hill again that goes down into the swampy area. Well, they didn't have it all the way. That is my sister Rosalie. And those were the Holsteins that he used for milk and cream and whatever. As you can see, they aren't very fierce. That one was. That's Ferdinand. You know who he was. He's a bull. And that is the one that my Uncle John rode when he had a few too many and ended up being flipped over the fence surrounding the barn, the back barnyard pasture. That's the new farmhouse. That's my mom up on top. I don't know who that is down below. Can't see her face. That was the original house with, oh, that's my grandfather. He's got pillows on. He's not that fat. The house burned down and they built a new one. They built it out of brick. Oh, that's Glimpy Sheets. I'll be darned. There he is. My grandfather. That's Rosalie. And there you see their tractor. Queenie was the white horse. And of course, the other one was called Brownie. Guess what color he was? Water. Water boys. Water carrier. Windrose. Pile it up. That's Grandma. Apolinka. Or actually, Apollonia. That's Mom. My mom. That's Charlie and me. So you see, we did work out there. They put them in the piles like that, regardless of what crop or whatever it is. Then they would come out to hitch the horses up to the flatbed hay wagon, and they would run alongside, and one guy would be on the wagon, and one guy would be on the ground, and he'd pick that pile up and throw it up on the wagon, and the guy on the wagon would then spread it out so that it raised up evenly until it got too high to throw on top. Then they bring it in. That woman, I do not know who she is. The one is Grandma, my grandma, and I don't know who the other one is. And I won't say for sure, but along the driveway between the orchard and the road, she had a row of peonies. So you'd have there were like a dozen bushes. I don't know who that is. And that's the road coming in. And then the peonies were down along that. That was me before. How do you like those pants? Yeah, one of my Bob Thunderbuck played the accordion. That's Grandpa. Bob Thunderbuck could play the accordion, and he was like you know, main entertainer when they had any gatherings. That's Jim Thunderbuck. He was a butcher. All these lived in Chicago. I just don't know who that one is. Gotta be somebody. That building right there is a chicken coop, and the other is a crib where they would store corn, right on the cob on the it was cow corn. The when it was dried off, then we'd have to shuck the corn off the cob. That's Jim Cuddiban. Boy, that looks like that Joyce from Michigan, Janago, that woman. And those flowers, yeah, that's Joe Janago from Michigan, from Flint, Michigan. Well, Oswego, outside of Flint. He worked at the Buick plant in Flint. That's it. All those flowers and those trees in the back are apple trees, which we were forbidden to climb, and you know how that went. And they always knew that we climbed it because, generally speaking, we break at least one branch. Yeah, that's Joyce and my mom, Joyce Janago. They were they were cousins. Joe was cousin to, well, Joyce, and then of course through marriage. That's John Hobble, Pollock, and Apolenko. And for your information, she did not speak a word of English. She refused to learn the language. Uh, Grandpa at least could speak some English, and he understood a lot, but he tried. Needless to say, she ruled the roost. He was a very mild person. That's Joe Janeco, basically. I want to say those are hollyhocks, but I don't know for sure. I think those are apses. I'm not sure that either. Somebody that knows flowers should be able to identify them.
So who was the flower gardener in the family?
Well, each the flowers grandma and the women planted, but each of the children were given like a half acre behind these flowers where the apple trees were to do whatever they wanted to do with. I was the only one that planted, and that was beans, well, vegetables, because he was out there all the time, so he could not only care of it, but he also could bring the stuff in when it was ripened. Because one year that was the big joke. He planted beans and it didn't come up because it was sort of dry. So he planted a couple more rows of beans and they didn't come up, even though he was watering them because it was too cool. Planted another couple rows of beans and the first one started to come up. and then the second one started to come up, and then the third one started to come up, and we had beans like you could have fed an army on the beans that we had. Because the more you pick, the more you get. So he'd always threaten everything to go out there and cut plants down when he doesn't. Let's see. I thought it was my mother. Yeah, that's my mother. And that's V. And Natalie is on the left. Natalie Zangi. That's Rosalie and V. So it'd be Rosalie, Vive, and Natalie. Natalie was our age. A little older. Well, no, she was our age. Marjorie was a little older. Never knew what they did with all those flowers. Those are peonies. Those are the bushes that are running alongside of the road. It's gotta be a memorial garden somewhere. Not seeing the faces, that looks like that would be my mom, me. Oh, that's Charlie. That's Charlie. There's Pa. That's in front of our house in Chicago. Sure takes a lot of the area. That's Pa again. You got it. Don't. I was gonna say it's got a scar in his mouth. Yet. That is Joe Zelenka, Joe Green. Zelenka is doing the show. I don't know if you want to know. This is one guy, he couldn't put a sentence together without some sort of profanity. He was a butcher also. He worked with Butterma, Jim Butterma. And that probably, at that time, no, it wouldn't be Joey, because Joey was older than that. That would be either, that could be Mary. There's Joe. There's Joey. He was a quiet kid. That's Mary. No, that's Claire. That's Joey. And I'm carrying Mary. That's Algonquin. That's their house. They were right across the road from the Fox River. That's Elsie and Paul. He was a painting contractor in Algonquin. That's the bridge across the Fox. There was a dam right underneath the bridge. They used to live down the river a little bit, right on the river. And then when he got more successful. So that's Marjorie, her oldest. She died. Elsie was in the hospital with some sort of ailment, and Marjorie came to visit her and slumped over the bed. She died of a heart attack. So that's Paul, Elsie, a girl on that you saw before. That's Natalie over there. The other one was Marjorie. This is in Indiana. These are the dunes, and this is the parish had a Boy Scout camp inland from this. So because we were in the parish, that we could go out there and on their property. And that's the myself. God, Charlie's got to be in there, but I don't. Oh, that might have been Bob. Yeah, that's Charlie in the water. That's Bob, and then myself. That's Charlie. And me. It was funny because the waves would literally scalp the bottom, the sand on the bottom. You could be walking waist deep, step off, and go up and over your head. We used to go out there quite often during the summer. My mom would make pork tenderloin, fry it, be cold with potato salad, and then iced tea that had orange juice in it, and club soda, and potato stuff. That's Genevieve. She really did not grow much after high school. But then as you know, my mom was short, also very short. Oh, that's Otto Coro. So we had a whole bunch of the guys out from the Scout Squadron. Ed Matea. I just dumped my brother out of the inner tube. And I don't know if you can tell, but actually we're pretty brown. We would get brown like that trim over there at the window, being out in the sun all the time. Didn't think it hurt us any. My dad used to let us take our buddies with us because their parents didn't take them out too much. That was Mom and Dave, and there's my dad. So I don't know who was operating the camera there. I don't think it was my mom because she didn't like it. That should be Dee. Yeah, good. Sort of remember that outfit. That's an antler. Charlie. Now that's a good. This is probably in Lake Michigan by the in Chicago. You can see we're quite a bit browner than she is. This was taken later on. That's the first time he had a tractor on there. You know what that is? The hay baler. What it's doing? Cuts and it should bale. There should be bales coming out of the back. You'll notice there weren't any rubber. Just said dig into the dirt. Boy, that almost looks like that almost looks like wheat rather than hay. Look at that. That was way later in life. That was almost just before he sold the farm. I could see the other side of that machine. Yeah, okay. That's not a hay baler. That's their old fashioned thrasher. What it's doing is cutting the hay down, or rather the wheat, and then it agitates it, and all the wheat falls off, and that has a little canvas conveyor belt that puts the wheat kernel onto the side and kicks the straw out the back. That was it's throwing the chaff out on the side. They came up with a different style. It was a lot bigger. That's why I was confused when I first saw it. It was a lot bigger than those, like a big old box machine, and you would throw the shocks in, and it had knives that went in there and chewed it up. They're unloading the grain. Yeah, this was just before the farm was, when they started to think in terms of selling the farm. There, the corn. Cutting the corn down. Now this tractor, this would be a rented. He would bring his tractor in and a piece of equipment and do the work for it. Yeah. That's all about. Those are water plants. That's ponds. It's garden. Look at that muskmelon. He had a terrible time there. See this the corn shock. Now that boy there, man, that was out of control. He was huh. They lived a few blocks, but they were in scouts with us. What do you think that he's got in his mouth? He had a cigar in his mouth all the time, yeah.
Isn't that the three messages of one?
Yeah. We usually ended up with a branch broken, and that just drove my grandfather nuts. That's why we weren't supposed to be in there. And then when we break a branch, no, we weren't, it wasn't us. I love to climb trees. We had those. That's Jim Thunderby, he was in the Marines, and Rosalie and Dee. He's the one that his dad got sick, close to death, and he was called back because his dad was sick, and his outfit was the outfit that was one of the ones that invaded Tarawa, that bloodbath there.
So that saved his life.
Huh?
Didn't call it back.
He was here when they invaded Tarawa, when the Marines were sent to Tarawa. And he was part of that group, and he was pulled out there. Because, and I don't know if they do it that way now, but if a parent or something like that, was on death's door, they would send the guy home. I think, I could be wrong, but I think this is a Fox River, because that's in Algonquin. We used to do a lot of skating there, ice skating on the river. But you had to be careful you didn't get too close to the falls, because the ice got thinner there.
Did you tell who that was?
Pardon?
Did you tell who that was skating?
I thought it was Dave and myself, but I'm not sure. This is Air Scouts. Air Scouts Squadron. This would have been, that's Charlie. This would have been at one of the museums, or at Midway Airport, one or the other. This, of course, would be at the airport. The military had a corner of Midway, and that's Otto Grove and Charlie. P-51 Mustang. And the Air Scouts, when they would ask for permission to tour these things, they let them. It wouldn't cost them anything. And again, that's Otto and Charlie. Otto being the taller one. We would have bought ourselves an airplane for $50. Surplus from the Air Force. But then you'd have to figure out how to way to get it there. It was not flyable. It was just for to go over and instruments and do stuff like that. I'm really surprised that they were able to get the airplanes into that airport because it's such a small field. I would think that they needed. Well, I don't know. Did I tell you about there was an elementary school on the southwest corner of Midway Field, and they had a fence. I mean, it was right up against the corner of the Midway's property, and they had a fence that separated so kids didn't go running out on the runway. And there were two concrete pillars for a gate. and a guy that came in went in a B-25, Billy Mitchell, and came in too hot, and his brakes didn't work, and he pancaked it in and went right between those two pillars, left the two wings and the engines there, and the body, of course, was on the ground, so he didn't get it all the way to the school. Those are all DC-3s or C-47s if you were in the service. That was the main plane that supplied the troops in Burma that flew over the hump. That's the most dependable plane that I can ever think of. They're still flying in South America and Mexico. Okay, it's auto, and I have to see what that is again. This, we had, I don't know if he is. We had the upper floor of the old rectory in the parish, a hall on the parish, and we had free reign there. That's my brother wearing his St. Rita jacket or sweater.
What was going on here?
They were. That's Charlie. They were what? Of course, he was all posed, but it was. That's auto control. I mean, you had all this information. What we were doing up there. We were going to build a mock-up of a bomber's cockpit with. We could get all the instruments and everything else, and they gave you the wiring diagram so you could charge them up with the battery. That's yes, that's our B-24. We had built it as a flying model. Had two little gas-powered engines on it, and we gave it a fond farewell when they were tearing the building down. We had to move everything out, and we didn't have any room for it because we had no place to go. So we put a few petrol-soaked rags in the fuselage with it, and the guy stood down below and took a picture of it. It came out of the window and then flaming down into the backyard. That was a nice plane. That's Charlie with the St. Rita jacket, art sweater. All balsa wood and airplane glue. At the time, we didn't know that sniffing glue wasn't good for you. I'm trying to think of that guy's name. Just he wasn't a real integral part of our group. So every one of those pieces in the wing of that were cut. We had to sit there and cut these things out of the balls. That's out of the world. His father was another one that every second word was a cuss word. He used to beat those kids at the university. I mean, just today he'd be in jail for child abuse. Let's see. That kid in the center there, that's Rudy. That's Otto's younger brother. I know that there it is. Yes. Wasn't a bad job. Huh? That stretched the paper we soaked with the dew. It was like tin. It was so stretched so tight and lacquered so much. And the landing gear had us. You can see that it had a little cylinder That's so that it was cushioned when it landed. Charlie Otto. I look like Ed Mateo. Oh, this is where Charlie comes up with the Fokker triplane. Yeah, that's the door to that old rectory before they tore it down. Yeah. Now the triplane though. They weren't radio controlled. You had to have wires on the side of them flying in a circle, basically. And it was always an adventure getting those little engines to start. But before they came out with the glow plug, you just never knew if the thing was sparking or not.
What are we seeing here?
Those are 30 caliber carbines, lever action. I don't know is there a shot of skeet shooting on this? I don't remember. Looks that way. Rabbit hunting. The intrepid hunters. You see the sign, right? I'm surprised we didn't shoot each other on that. The way we go out there. These pictures, I don't know how these pictures might have been taken by the parish priest. Because he had an 8mm camera also. Our my dad gave him film or something to take pictures. Yeah, that was the parish priest, Father Fluffa. That's the first one. A little bit of a kick. That's Rudy Pearl. Bobby Johnson, over that sad. I don't know who he knew that had a farm that he could harm on. It wasn't that he could hunt on. It wasn't Crystal Lake, that's for sure. Oh, skeet shooting. Okay. There were a lot of places that wouldn't allow you to shoot skeet on farms. About the only place you could go to because the pigeons, the discs that you shot at contained a clay that the animals like chew on. It wasn't good for them. It was like an old Pontiac. That tall drink of water walking out there, that's Ed Matea. He was one heck of a nice guy. He played Teddy Roosevelt in our rendition of Arsenic and Old Lace. First name of that kid is Peter, but I don't know what his last name is. You notice how many left-handers there are? I don't know why Charlie was shooting left-handed. He wasn't left-handed. That was the truth. That was Father Puppet's version. He wrote it, and directed it, and filmed it. Didn't go anywhere. But the typical odor, saloon keeper, villain. Vive was the put upon woman. You had the hero, and then you had the cowhands, and I didn't know that pony was neck rein. I almost killed myself. Threw the dummy off. I just like you can't tell it's a dummy, right? He was the saloon owner. We had there was a full-size bar in the gym of the school's, the elementary school's gym, the stage behind. And that's where the inside scenes were shot. This was shot in the new rectory in the priest's office. His home, his room. There's Vive, Ed Matea. I have to see when he's in the red shirt. That's at the ranch. Those rifles that we're carrying were old Springfields, 47, 47, 4750s. I mean, they shot a slug as big as your thumb. These scenes were all shot in Indiana. I think it was Lowell. That's where he had his piece of property with the house on it. And there is a narration that goes with this. There was more to it than that. Believe me. It's an edited version. Townsend, Townsend. If that's Townsend, that's where. Yeah, that's the on the side. That's my mother. That's the piece of property. Charlie and now I couldn't see enough of whether that was the property that our uncle. Know the end. That's V. That one. That one there. I wonder if that's. That looks like that's a that is a boot lake in Wisconsin. But I don't remember them having boats there. That would have been if that is. That would have been the stuff that the CCC built. That water was crystal clear in the lake. That's beautiful again. Railroad Museum, I think. Charlie, Rosalie, V, myself. Knickers. Logging museum is a logging mills. My dad was great with panning shops, right? And putting his finger in front of it. Oh, that's Joe Zelenko. Did they say turkey run in this one? Okay. That's my dad with his beer. Whenever he went past a week without with it, where he didn't have to go to work, he wouldn't shave. Pulp mill.
state do you think that?
Wisconsin, I guarantee it was Wisconsin. There is the old property that Joe Zonika's uncle left him. He died. There's no electricity, no running water. This is old Plymouth. So the water, there was a pump in front of the house. That's where we got the water from. Townsend, Wisconsin. No heat. That's Geraldine Butterbaugh. That's a 1938 Plymouth. What they called floating power. And it was. Every time you saw a pond, you had to put water back in it. Get boiling out. All right. We have to look up on the map where Townsend is up pretty good ways up in Wisconsin, but it's in the central section.
Take a lot of vacation trips with other families.
Yeah. We'd either go in Wisconsin fishing or we go up to Minnesota fishing. But every year we went up there at least once, as far as extended, for a couple weeks at a time. I don't know who this guy is. The guy in the back um, is he was a pharmacist. He owned a pharmacy in Chicago. See what he was doing, don't you?
He was bailing the wrong way.
Yeah. And I forget it was Newsel or I'm not. I don't remember the name too well at all. In fact. But I don't know who he is. In fact, I don't know any of them. Three votes. I mean, I can't tell you where this was. It's had to be just when my dad went with them. It was all pike. It ought to be a combination of pike and pickerel. And that one, a guy in the white shirt, and that's his son. He was a insurance investment banker. He was a banker, and he owned a bank in our neighborhood. That's where my dad had his savings and his checking and everything. Bear Lake, okay, wherever that was. That's our backyard in Chicago. And it was about the size of a postage stamp. Turkey Run. There is my dad's 37 Chevy. The thing was built like a tank. Rosalie and Mom. Me and Mom and Rosalie. We would camp when we were going to those places. Hard to tell you what that is. Not it's too early now. Got 20 more minutes to wait. 25 more. So you just wait. There's my dad getting cigar lit. You can see we were slow readers. There's an Indian canoe going. They really are paddling fast.
that trip?
I think that was just my dad and my mom. I'll have to see, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
So where would you be?
Well, we were old enough. If we weren't with them, we were old enough still. That's my mom. We're not with her.
How often would they go off the top?
It's just probably the only time. But I don't ever remember them leaving us regularly. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't know when this was filmed. 1951. Okay. Then we would have talked them into going, taking a vacation and just going. So it looks to me like it was just mom. Each year, probably go on a fishing trip 2 weeks. He would take us, Charlie and I with him. Because he got, like, early on he was getting 3 weeks vacation, and he was getting 4 weeks vacation. So you could take 2 vacations in different places. Or 2 weeks or whatever, 1 week, or as much you wanted to do. So it'd have to be my mom taking it. And he would have to talk her into it. She didn't like the, no, not to be able to do it. That's mom. I can't remember more than just a couple times where they went by themselves.
Until they went to west for vacation.
One time, and we had come out west with Charlie, Bob Motwitz, and myself. Came with Father Fluppa out west. We came all the way to Colorado and then back again to Arizona. We went to the Grand Canyon with us. And we liked it so much. We talked to my dad about it a lot. Never said, you ought to go or anything. Just talked about it. And he, 2 years later, he planned a 2-week trip to the West Coast. And it wasn't the West Coast. We went to Colorado and Arizona um, up into Wyoming, and it just made a big loop. It came around, got to the Grand Canyon, and went through the Estes and Pikes Peak. Took in a rodeo in Colorado. I think it was in Colorado Springs. I'm not sure. And that was a 2 week trip. I don't think, from my recollections, that my mom liked travel too much. That's her sitting there right there. And I don't know why. Just because she never went fishing with us. When we went up to Wisconsin to Townsend and that, the whole family went up. It was a different story. But if I just wanted to go to a fishing lake, she didn't want to go. I guess her trips to Townsend, no indoor plumbing, no water, nothing like that. Sort of like, why would I want to do this? But I'm basically all the fishing camps we ever went to was fully, and I had all the amenities. So it wasn't luxurious. There were little cabins, but you had heat and you had cooking facilities.
A trip like that every year.
Trip like what?
Fishing trip.
A fishing trip every year. At least one time he would go fishing. A couple times he went twice because he wanted to go to two different lakes. But towards I'd say the last, this is after mom and I got married, the last few years, um, we were going up to Minnesota. Um, and the last 2 years we went was up into Canada. Yeah, he loved his fishing. And we'd bring back a lot of fish. We used to, up until the last few years, we'd bring them back full of trout and fishing, yeah. Um, I'd fillet them up at the camp, and then we'd pack them in ice. because it made it easier to transport them. And we didn't have all the heads and stuff to get rid of. They would always be cleaned and then thrown in the ice house. But I'd leave the head on them because if you're stopped, you have to show what the total length is. Oh, it was the old printer. This would be, that was a 48 Plymouth, 1948 Plymouth. That was where as you increased your speed, it went from white to green, and when you got to 50 miles an hour, then it started to turn red. It was a dark green color. Very, very comfortable color.
Do you recall them talking much about the trip?
No, I don't. They would show the film just like we're watching now. They would talk about the things that you see, but otherwise, nothing. It was actually, it wasn't like companies over and they pull out the pictures. It basically we're the ones that looked at it. Only if somebody asked. If, you got pictures from when
Quite
you're,
nervous.
yeah, it's a suspension bridge and it's swinging, and Mom was not the bravest soul on something like that. I don't blame her much, but at all. But that's probably another reason why she sort of thought twice before she went out of there. I mean, where it was the girls and Mom, and it was when we'd go to Turkey Run, Starved Rock, Illinois, the Dalles, up into Townsend. That's when she would go along. But if it were like that, was something to talk them into taking a trip like that. And when we went out west, the same thing. She was not too thrilled about it until she got into it and realized how nice it was. But she's like Mom is. She sees a curvy mountain road and you don't have anything on one side of you, and she gets a little panicky. And New Salem in Illinois, down to Springfield we went one time. Yep, there she is. Did that say Lookout Mountain?
It's a Point Park.
Point Park. Okay. So do I have to stand here? There it is, Lookout Mountain. Mom and I visited that on our honeymoon. That's where the Confederates were going down into it was a Union occupied town, and stole the wire out of the pianos so they could get longer range on their cans. And this would be something like this. My mom just wouldn't want anything to do with the Pog Railway or the tram, whatever.